I wanted to invite on the stage Yossi Levi, founder and CEO of Car Dealership Guy, and Don South from NADA 20 Group Panels.
All right, so I was mandated with maximizing value on this panel, so or I should say fireside chat. So we'll have some fun. Don, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Don South, 20 Group moderator for NADA. This will be almost my 22nd year in doing this. So I've typically about 7 groups, different franchises, obviously. I'm looking at, I still have like 3 or 4 of my original groups from 20 plus years, which has been amazing. I've seen the people who were in the group get older, the second generation come in, they've taken it over, mostly successful, not always though, obviously, but it's been a really good growing experience for me. It's been great.
Amazing. We'll also spice it up throughout with some questions where we sent questions in our dealer group chats before this, and some people submitted great stuff, so we'll sprinkle that in throughout the conversation. So
Sounds
the
good.
point of this conversation is to be very tactical and actionable. Don, you're one of the top NADA 20 Group facilitators.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
So I hear.
Thank you.
And so I know you're coming off a couple trips recently, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, so I've already done probably, I think, 3 20 groups in the last 3 weeks. I've got another one coming up next week. So it's very topical, as far as what's on the dealer's mind right now. These meetings, typically the first meeting of the year, especially earlier in the year like this, we do a year-over-year evaluation. So we would have been evaluating the year of 2024 versus 2025 in net change. And we're looking at sales, expenses, gross expenses, and net profit, total dealership wide, and then all the departments, from that. And, it's always interesting to see what happened the last year, and now what our challenge is to, if it's good, keep it going. If it's not good, what we're going to do to fix it, which is the big question.
So let's start very high level. How do you summarize the headline going into 2026 amongst dealers?
Concern. A lot of concern from, what's happening in the world. A lot of concern about expenses. I mean, expenses year over year that I've seen, again, general speaking, there's always a couple of dealers in the group who buck the trend. But if you're looking at trends, expenses are outpacing gross in most stores, and that's not a good thing. So we're concerned. What's going on about that? Some of the manufacturers are doing some things, and we don't control that part of our business. We'll get a little bit more into that a little bit later, but yeah, concern. I mean, it's not like it was 3 years ago when we were all making lots of money, but unfortunately now we're back to reality again, and we got to make the most of it for sure.
So when you say concern, how is that different? You said correct, profits are down, but what's the concern right now that's different than what you've seen historically? You've been doing this for 20 years, so you've
20 plus years.
You've seen the patterns.
Oh yeah, for sure. So yeah, if I'm looking at my overall deal, here's my sales, here's the gross, here's expenses, here's net. And like I said a minute ago, if the expenses are outpacing the gross, that is a real concern. I got to right that ship. So yeah, I'm concerned about all the aspects that come into that, no doubt.
Okay, so if someone is talking to you in your meeting about expenses outpacing gross, what are you doing? How are you tackling that? Like, what's the first step you're taking?
Well, as a dealer, I have to look at, where's my money going? I mean, we know that we all know there's upward pressure on personnel expense, on wages are going up all across the board, and how can I either make more of gross, or how am I going to get more volume? And it's going to be a little bit of both, obviously. So then I'm really looking at front and back grosses on new, front and back grosses on used. And again, there's always an exception, but most of them are going down right now. Now, the flip side of that, if there is a good thing, is that fixed operations is really coming alive in some ways. But it's not all roses, though. What I say about that is that we see grosses are going up in the fixed operations, especially in service. I mean, it's not uncommon for me to see stores that were losing 5-6 digits in service last year, and they're making money this year. But What's not growing very fast is the underlying flat rate hours that we're selling. If the flat rate hours are either flat or in some cases going down. So all this extra growth is coming from we're raising labor rates sometimes quarterly, sometimes monthly, it seems.
And across what brands are you seeing that? Like, is that, I can't imagine it's across all brands.
Well, here's my portfolio of brands that I deal with. I have a Mercedes-Benz group. I have 2 Ford small volume groups. I have a Volkswagen. In this case, I have a Volkswagen group. I'd love to have you in it sometime. She didn't hear me. But for Volkswagen, Subaru, and I have it's a relatively new group. It is a German luxury group. So it's limited to just Porsche, Audi, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz. So that's my portfolio groups.
Got it. I want to talk more a little bit about vendor discipline. You mentioned expenses, and I think you see there's many, many bolt-on solutions hitting the market. I feel like I talk to dealers and just they're being solicited nonstop. It's, especially now with the AI wave, there's a lot of great stuff. There's a lot of, questionable stuff. And so how is that? How are you, what are the conversations around vendor discipline? Of course, that's one expense. And I'm curious, how you're tackling that when you're thinking about, look, there's no doubt about it that the right technology will make me a lot better as a retailer, as a dealer. It'll improve processes. But for those that saw what Steve Greenfield shared earlier here, a slide, the average salesperson sold 10 cars like 6 years ago a month, and they still sell 10 cars now.
Pretty much.
So then you ask yourself, okay, what's really effectuating change? So just talk to me about vendor discipline. I have to imagine this is a big topic.
Yeah, okay, a few things about that. So yes, there are a lot of vendors out there. There's a lot of vendors that seem to do the same thing. So what you have to do is figure out what works for you. Now, it's not universal that every vendor can make their program work with every DMS. And that becomes a sticking point sometimes. We've got, it works great for rentals and ADP or whatever. But if I've got one of the more obscure DMSs out there, it's not going to work right. And it's up to you to figure out what's going to work with your people, with your DMS, especially with your CRM as well. One thing, again, I am not here to push anybody, any vendor, any solution. We don't do that. We're agnostic across the board for all of them. But I just tell you what I hear in my 20 groups. So what I'm hearing a lot of right now is Techion is a buzzword for us. I mean, I'm almost every time I go to a meeting, somebody is either about to change over, or it just has. So we're talking about it a lot. Now they're not the silver bullet, no way, but I think they do have some promise. So I think, and I'm only saying this because what I've seen is that many vendors work pretty well with them. Now, it wasn't that way a couple, 3 years ago when they first came out, but it is getting better. So you got to think about your processes. Does the vendor and the vendor solution work with your process? If it does, great. If it doesn't, if you're going to have to change how you do things just for that vendor, well, it's up to you to make that happen. So there'll be a lot of training involved and a lot of, bloody noses, that sort of thing, but it can work, for sure it can. Oh, let me get back to one more thing, too. So looking at the cost of the vendor thing, I had a dealer a long time ago. This has come up a few times. All right, so we find a vendor we're going to use. Again, it doesn't matter what it is. Typically, those contracts are about 12 months, maybe, give or take a little bit sometime. But typically, it's 12 months contract. It's an automatic renewal with a cancellation notice 30 to 60 days out. And of course, we have dozens of these contracts. We have businesses to run, departments to run, and we're really not thinking about, oh crap, I got this thing coming up in 60 days, and if I don't cancel it, I got to pay it for another year. So this dealer had a brilliant idea. What I'm going to do every time I sign a vendor contract, the next day I send them a cancellation notice. I'm putting them on notice on that day so I don't forget it. At the end of this term, I'm going to be canceling. And it freaks them out, man. Oh, my God, what did I do wrong? Nothing. Didn't do anything wrong. And this is the way I do my business. I have the option now. I have the option whether I want to go through with another year or
a great one.
Automatically cancel for me.
That's a very good one. I also heard this is a bit more expensive, but I do know some dealers that actually run 2 DMSs across a group, of course, not one store.
Yeah.
And the thought there is it provides leverage, negotiations, and of course there's, redundancy for downtime, but you could think this across any, software that you use and, that where they charge by rooftop and split it across your group. But again, of course, it's more overhead. So now let's dissect the profitability stack a little bit. Again, going now into this year, trends you're seeing. Let's just start with like front end gross. You can get as specific as you'd like across brands, but what are you seeing right now on front end gross across your groups?
Oh, and without a doubt, it's pressure downward. 100%. Again, there's always somebody. There's always a dealer in the group who kind of bucks the trend, and this actually is a pretty good trend to buck, obviously. But
it's what?
It's a good trend to buck. If they're going down, you're going up. That's a good thing. So it depends on franchise, depends on the store, but there is definitely downward pressure on the front end gross. So which makes it even more critical that we have a highly functioning F&I operation. I mean, it's to the point now where you can't have a shot at profitability if you don't have a high functioning F&I department. And I still see dealers who have tons and tons of opportunity. One dealer of mine for one of my groups, he's been, I don't know, probably sub 500 net F&I for years. And the group, me, everybody's talked to him. You got this isn't acceptable. You have to have back end gross. We have to have it. And finally, one day we go to a meeting and look at the page. Holy crap! He's over group average. Is on his way to best of class. So
what changed?
Mary, what did you do? What did you do? It's always the same answer. I found a guy. I found a lady. I found somebody different who gets it and comes in and sets the world on fire. And it's great. It's a beautiful thing.
Incredible. Tell me more about service. So we spoke about front and back end. Let's talk a little bit about service now. And you mentioned that, was it labor rates going up earlier?
Yes.
So talk to us about what you're seeing working well on the service side.
Well, I mean, we have upward pressure on the rates. We have the opportunity to raise the rates because of situations, but the main driver behind the rates are the technicians. Now, technicians have been hard to find for as long as I've been in this business, and too many times, you'll have a tech that's kind of on the fence and goes down the street. Oh, yeah, I'll pay another $5 an hour, $3 an hour, no problem. And then he comes back to you and you say, yeah, and you match it or whatever. And a lot of times all that it really is a technician is using one dealer against another to get a raise. And, God bless them. And that happens. They got to get paid too. But that's really the driving point because, our goal for service department gross profit across all categories, customer pay, internal, warranty, whatever, 76 to 78% minimum. That's what we're looking for. And when we're getting, sometimes we have to raise our most trained technicians, $4, $5, $6 an hour. That math doesn't work anymore. So we, to order to hit our gross profit targets, we got to raise the rates. And they've been raising for a while.
Yeah.
But I think it may be kind of flattening out a bit, but we'll see.
Service is one of the places where you see a ton of new AI usage amongst dealers. And I'm curious to know, in your groups, what is the sentiment across just the dealer body? Is it curiosity? Is it at this point acceptance and, people are adopting tools? I'm hearing, it's very different across dealerships in general and dealers. So across your groups, what would you say is the sentiment?
I won't really put it just in service. I'm going to say dealership wide, really, in that situation. I have, for probably the last 6 or 8 months or so, I have an agenda item on all my agendas and meetings about AI. Let's talk about what are you doing, how are you using it, and I'm not specific to anything. I just want to know what's going on, and the vast majority of dealers are not really using it at all. And we've kind of found
Really?
Well, what I've found in my groups, I mean, when I ask the dealer, okay, so what are you doing? I'm just going to look at you, just if I'm talking to you, I know already, but what are you doing with AI? Well, when I write emails, I put it through AI so it looks better. Okay, that's a start. Well, hey, I've been using AI for my descriptions on used vehicles. Pretty good start too, really. So that's the sort of thing that I was hearing. But then I got to this one group, and this one manager, the GM of this group, he has fully embraced it. And in fact, to the point where he wears one of these little microphones, and he's attached to Chat GTP 100% of the time. And anytime something comes up, he's getting an answer. And he's really kind of getting into it in that way. I just left one of my groups last weekend, and we started talking. We kind of went around the room, talked a little bit about it, and we had a breakout session scheduled. And in this particular group, they have objective partners. So when I'm leaving the meeting, I pick an objective I'm going to work on for the next meeting, and we would go around the room and talk about that sort of thing. But we changed it a little bit, and now we have objective partners. So they get together. What I see, what going on with you with your book, John, I just say right there. Here's John right there. This is what you should be working on. So we were doing that already. We had already done that. I had another session coming up. We were going to use our objective partners and analyze each other's Google business pages. Which, if you obviously know what that is, but this is very, very, very important that you have up-to-date information, everything's right about it. And kind of the idea is a customer can find you, search your name, find you on a Google search. On the right-hand side of the window, the Google my business profile pages come up, and that tells you everything about the dealership. In fact, you can look at inventory. You can do everything pretty much you want to do on Google business pages. So, but it's okay. And as we were going through, when one of the guys was doing a presentation about something and he's embraced AI pretty good. So it hit me, we're changing this. I'm not going to put you together in partners. I want each of you to get out your device, your phone, your tablet, whatever you brought. And if you do not have an account on, again, I'm just saying AI, it could be chat, it could be Grok, whatever you want to use. But if you do not have an account, make one right now. Then once you make your account, go type in your business name, your URL, whatever you want to do, and have the AI agent analyze your Google business pages. And man, that blew everybody away. It doesn't matter what I think it should be. Let's find out what the expert says.
Wait, what did it analyze specifically?
Google business profiles.
So it analyzed how this dealer set
everything
up.
About how you're set up, how your ratings are, and in fact, it ranks it as a gold. I think it was gold, silver, platinum. Bronze, whatever it was. And a couple of guys in the group thought they had theirs set up pretty well. They had the lowest score. It was like in the lowest ranking there was. And if you have never done that, you got to do it. But don't do it if you're having a good day, because it's probably going to piss you off. So just do it when you're having a bad day. Kind of like when you're going over the phone, phone conversations with your salespeople and the customers. Or if you really want to have a bad day, walk back to the parts department, the special order bin. Ooh, that's a fun time.
All right, so Don, talk to me. We haven't touched on inventory in terms of inventory management, pricing. I've heard many conflicting philosophies on how we're pricing, how often we're pricing. What's your thought on that and inventory as we stand today?
Well, obviously inventory control is very important now, because we've been used to running credits in inventory. Those are pretty much long gone now. I mean, there's some people who still have them, but not many. With the used cars, most of the high performing dealers, they're repricing almost every day, and they're raising prices as much as they're lowering prices, because a lot of times a customer will put a save on the vehicle, and they'll notify them of a price change. The price change goes up, they're on the phone. They're on the phone. Hey, listen, if I want to buy this car today, will you honor the price that was on there yesterday? Sure, come on down.
Yeah,
So,
it's a good tactic.
But as far as control of inventory, that's a critical piece, and it seems like we get lax more on new cars than we do on used cars, because we'll go through inventory, either new or used, and I'll ask the dealer, okay, so how many new vehicles do you have on the ground over 60 days? And it's probably a third or half in some cases. I say, okay, where on your lot are those older inventory vehicles? I guess they're scattered throughout the lot somewhere. No, you need to put those things front and center. Most best practices, the either used car manager or new car manager will have a whiteboard in their office. Here are my oldest 10 vehicles, new or used. Those are the ones that have got to go. If I'm working a deal on a vehicle that I have an inventory and I've got 5 of them, I'm picking the oldest one, and I'm getting the price right on that thing, because this got to go. Because if you're not controlling your inventory, your floor plans expand, and you're paying more money for nothing.
Well said. So Don, I want to talk about just think about your highest performing dealers across your groups today.
Okay.
And as you think about them, I want to understand a little bit about what they're doing differently than the lowest performing dealer in the group. But specifically, it can be about profitability, it can be about sales. I mean, whatever it is, I want to understand. You mentioned that one dealer with that beautiful tactic, which I love, by the way, like right away putting in that cancellation.
Yeah.
Is that some crazy big thing? No, but it's a very smart strategy to make sure that you keep your vendors honest and that they're driving value. Love that. So now, again, thinking back to your highest performing dealers, can you just tell me a little bit about them?
If I had to generalize those dealers, I would say probably the first thing that hits my mind is attention to detail. I mean, they know what's going on. There is, your most important thing is to maximize net profit. That's what we're trying to do. I know it sounds simple, but I mean, just paying attention to detail, and kind of a sort of, a similar type situation. If you have a dealer who is not performing well, and all of a sudden there's a big change. I mentioned that about the F&I a minute ago, but now this is dealership wide. Now all of a sudden I'm seeing this dealer's profitability going up quickly. I said, okay, what did you do? And it seems like it's always the same thing. I went back to the basics. I went back to just, if I would use a football analogy, I went back to just basic blocking and tackling, because you can't win football games if you can't get the basics right. You can't be a successful dealer, or as successful as you can be, if you don't handle the basics. And that's probably the one overall thing that I see. They pay attention to detail, and they go back to the basics and make sure everybody is following the process, no matter, because, business is all about people, processes, and product. I mean, that's pretty much it.
Do you see it? There's this interesting transition as you scale the group and you bring in more talent and leadership, right? Like, how close do you stay to the day-to-day? And from my perspective, I've seen this kind of vary across the spectrum. Some dealers are a lot more hands-off, and assuming, of course, they have, management in place, and some are still more hands-on. Do you see one or the other performing better?
Well, yeah. Well, it depends. I have one dealer that I have in mind. He has about 4 stores, and they're scattered throughout the Southeast. And he's away from his store much more than he's there. But he has his DMS. He can tie into whichever store he wants to look at. He could be in the store. He could be at home. He could be wherever in the world he is, but he is still very hands-on in his business. He knows exactly what's going on, and I think it's kind of brilliant. Away for him, he uses. Sorry, had a sweaty hand there. He uses the 20 group actually for his board of directors. So he knows that he's in several 20 groups, and he may not come every time, but he's there enough where he knows what's going on. But more importantly, he knows what's going on with his GMs, And he runs the store remotely through his gyms, but he's still there, probably every couple, 3 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks, something like that probably. But yeah, you can pay attention to the detail and focus on profitability without physically having to be there if you have good people. He has good, well-trained people, and he helps them. He keeps in our groups to keep them fresh and keep them focused.
So for those here that follow the platform, listen to the podcast, know me, I'm very much into just pure learning intelligence. We have dealer chat groups, which I mentioned earlier, called Circles. And I see plenty of Circles members here in the audience. So that's nice. So let's have some fun. Let's pull up some questions.
Let's have fun. Absolutely.
Is Nick Huff, are you in the audience?
Hey, you mean to tell me that story?
There he is.
You mean to tell you that story that I told you a while ago about my background?
Which story? Which one?
All right, so yeah, I'll
go ahead.
When I first got into this business, I had been retail for probably 20 plus years or so. All of my retail experiences in fixed operations. I mean, I started as a service advisor, went all the way up to a platform manager over multiple stores, but all in fixed operations. But so I had an opportunity to talk to NADA about 20 groups. I went, man, this is awesome. I'd heard of them before, but I didn't really think about doing one. But I thought this would be good. So I went through training, and probably within about 6 weeks, 8 weeks or so, I was assigned my first group. And it was a small force group. And by the way, I still have that same group, but it was pretty small, mostly southeastern, 4-store, kind of low volume. And I talked with my chairman, and we got together and said, what's your background? What you doing? I said, well, honestly, all my background has been in fixed operations. I was retail for a bunch of years. I worked as a contract employee with Ford Motor Company, all doing fixed operations. I said, that's been my whole jam the whole time. I said, I've never worked at this. I mean, I understand how it works, but I never worked at this. I've sold a couple cars to my buddies and stuff, but I didn't, that I can't say that I ran this and got paid for doing it. He says, well, you know what? Well, this is going to be a great fit because we don't know shit about fixed operations. They said, tell you what, you teach us about fixed operations, we'll tell you all you need to know about sales. And for the first 5 years plus, I concentrated 100% on variable operations. And now I feel pretty good. But it was a fun group.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. So
Okay.
First question is from Nick Huff, who's right there. Nick. Question is, what are you seeing dealers do to successfully drive down advertising costs per unit retailed?
Oh,
The infamous question.
That is the $100,000 question there for sure. We always thought that when digital marketing became the thing, we think finally there may be some way to tie some kind of ROI to my cost per lead, my cost per click, whatever cost per sale. It should be able to work out that way. And as we all know, it really doesn't. It doesn't work out that way. Not as much as we thought it would. But you've got to figure out, okay, so whatever source that you're paying for, how many leads are you getting? See if you can get it down to the cost per click and a cost per sale. And then figure from that point, does the ROI make sense? If it does, you might want to do more. If it doesn't, you might want to look at something else. But you might be, wasting some money if your ROI is not there. That's what I would do. I would look at cost per click and cost per sale. I mean, there's other metrics you can look at too. But just figure out what you're paying. Does it make sense? Does it ROI or does it not? That's what I do.
All right. Good answer. So this is a question I really like. A gentleman named Steve, he's asking, and I'll just summarize this.
Okay.
When you integrate a new piece of technology in a dealership, there's like a learning curve. There's an integration period. During that period, your sales may drop, right? You're not efficient yet. You're learning how to use a system. There's a learning curve. And so Steve is asking, how do you balance that? Or how are you seeing dealers balance this? Imagine I'm a dealer right now in the meeting that you just came back from when we chatted last week. And I'm sure there was someone there that said, I'm going to do X, Y, Z differently. Next meeting, they're going to join the next meeting, and then they've done that differently. What are your expectations? Like, how do you balance long-term strategic initiatives with our short-term sales cycles where we work month to month and want to hit objectives? How do you think about that?
Well, not blowing our own horn here or anything, but that's one reason why you want to be with a group of dealers who do what you're doing. There's most likely there's someone in that group who's already figured that out already. They've used, unless it's something brand new, which is a little bit different, but most probably there is someone in your group. Again, think of your members as your board of directors. Okay, all right. So if you're in your dealership, you'll say you own a single point dealership, and you're the dealer. You go back to your dealership. Well, none of your employees are going to tell you if you come up with this great idea that we found in this 20 group. They're going to look at you and say, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of in my life. Nobody's going to tell you that. They're going to say, yeah, okay. If that's what we need to do, yes, sir, boss, we're going to do the best we can. But if you're in a 20 group, again, or whatever, situation that you're in, most probably, like I said, somebody's done this before. They say, look, let me save you about 6 months of heartache and about $10,000. I did the exact same thing you're talking about. It was a disaster. Not to say it wouldn't be for you, but somebody's already been down that road, and listen to them. Maybe try something else.
100% pure intelligence. Okay, so we are at time. So I'm gonna put you on the spot now. We're gonna we're talking about asking people that know. So every dealer that's here that's listening, what are 1, 2, or 3 things that you would tell them, hey, when you go back home on Monday, do this. Like, this is what I recommend in terms of, auditing your dealership or checking something. Like, what's on your mind? What are 3 just actionable takeaways that anyone here can take back to their dealership on Monday?
Well, you touched a while ago on the vendor thing. I mean, we pay a lot of money on outside services. I mean, take a look at what you're paying. And is it working for you? Does it make sense? I mean, that's something you can do pretty quickly. I would analyze where my money is going, and that's an open checkbook right there. It just seems like in a lot of places. Man, there's like there's a lot. I can go a lot different.
From your most recent 20 group, the one you just came back from.
Huh. One thing that, and this is not a huge deal, but something you should be paying attention to. Okay, there are 5 states out there that you cannot charge shop supplies as a percentage of parts and or labor. Typically, shop supplies are calculated by a percentage of labor. It's typically 10, 15, 18%, up to a cap of, it could be $50, $75, $100, something like that. And again, if you're one of those, if Pennsylvania, New York, Wisconsin, there's 2 more, I can't remember what they are, but there's just a handful of states. So this does not apply to most of the states. Make sure that you're getting shop supplies charged. And then and if you do it correctly, you can run a credit in shop supplies. Now, the whole idea behind shop supplies is you're charging the customer a percentage of the business that the work that you're doing and all this stuff that is consumed with this. It could be floor mats, shop rags, brake cleaner, and this stuff adds up in a hurry. This is a lot of money we're talking about. And so if you can get that offset to cover that, or in some cases, in a lot of cases, you can actually have a credit in the shop supply accounts, which should be a charge account. Drives the accountants crazy when that happens, but you can, and that's something you can do. It's very easy. And in a year, if you have a big shop, if you got a shop of 40, 50, 60 technicians, we're talking about 5 digits a month here. It's a lot of money. Sure is. I would
Great
definitely
work.
look at that.
Great work. Thank you, Don. Give it up for Don South. Thank you so much, Don.
Thank you, guys. I enjoyed it very much so.